Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We begin in the name of the God whose mercy is profound, whose kindness is forever. In our discussion on nouns, we have reached a point wherein, after having done the nouns that are taking the i'rab of rafa and jar, and I mentioned that I have given jar, call it precedence over nasab, because of the fact that the nouns that take jar are only two categories. There are two reasons. So rafa, the nominative case, is what we studied, and I mentioned that it's four reasons primarily why a noun would take the form of rafa, the nominative case. And then in the case of jar, the genitive case, it's primarily two reasons. But when it came to the third possibility, which normally when you discuss the i'rab, it comes in between the two. And the reason why it is so, hopefully I'll find time to mention it at some later stage. This is the accusative case. Now, in the case of nasab, we have already talked about the fact that maf'ul bihi is one reason why a noun would be in the form of nasab. We talked about the fact that halat is another reason which gives a noun the i'rab of nasab, even though we discussed that there are other ways of also expressing the understanding of halat in Arabic. There was a third reason that was maf'ul lahu, the reason why a certain noun takes the form of nasab, and we discussed the examples of it. There was another peculiar style of presentation in Arabic, maf'ul mutlaq, which also is the accusative form, nasab form. And finally, we have talked about tamyiz, which is another reason why a noun would take the form of nasab. Today, we hopefully are going to talk about the rest of the 6 other reasons why a noun appears in the form of nasab i'rab. Not that the list is just simply 11. There could be other reasons as well, but these are the more well-known, famous, more frequently appearing reasons why a noun takes the form of nasab. Now we move on to the next possibility, and the next possibility is in actual fact one possibility, but it has two different categories, forms. Together, it's called maf'ul fihi. The verb took place in it. Maf'ul, the verb took place, fihi, in it. That is, these are the two examples wherein we get a noun which is in the sentence giving a meaning that whatever act, verb took place, it took place in it, in that noun. Now, when you say in it, there are two possibilities. One is called zarf. Both are actually zuruf. One is called zarf-e zaman. The verb took place in a particular time period, a duration, an era, or similar concepts. No matter whatever job is done, whatever work takes place, it obviously takes place in a particular time span. You express it in noun in a sentence, and that noun is going to take the form of nasab. It's going to be accusative, and the reason would be zarf zaman, that is time. It has taken place in a particular time. And likewise, we have zarf makan. Makan is simply space. So the work was contained, was done in either a particular time period or a particular place, space. Let's try to take one example each. Let's talk about zarf zaman first. We know in the Quran, the very first verse of chapter 15, 17, Surah Bani Israel, or which is also called Isra. It says, Subhanallazi, free from all weaknesses, flaws, is the one, Asra, who took, whom, bi'abdihi, his servant. Subhanallazi asra bi'abdihi laylan. When did he take him? At night. At a time when it was night. At a certain night. Now, this noun, layl, night, is the one where the act of taking, causing to take, took place. And therefore, it is zarf zaman. The verb took place in this particular time, and therefore the noun that is appearing in the sentence is taking the nasab accusative form. Obviously, as we move on to come up with new examples, we need to try to figure out as to whether we understand some part of what is written on the basis of what we have already done, because that's what's going to enable you to practice and to strengthen the understanding that you've already acquired. Why is this subhan taking the form of nasab, and that to only one and not two, is a question that should there be in one's mind. I'm not in a position and a mood to give the reasons, but I'm just saying that, questions should arise. This is verb. We have not touched verb as yet, but abd is a noun which, because of harf jar, is actually taking this jar form. Because of harf jar, it's genitive, and it's taking one instead of two because it is also mudaf. We've seen in our discussion of mudaf ilayh that if there is a governing noun mudaf, then it is always with one harakat and not two. It doesn't take tanween. And when it is mudaf ilayh, the governed noun, it has to be in the form of jar. So that's the explanation of what we've already done. But right now, I was giving an example of a noun which is in the form of nasab, because it is appearing to represent zarf zaman. The act took place at that particular time. Now let's move on to, and obviously there could be a number of other examples. I would encourage you to continue to read the Quran. You would have the translations with you as an advantage, and try to figure out, on the basis of your understanding that you've acquired as yet, as to why certain nouns are taking certain forms of i'rab and what could be the reasons. That practice is what going to be the most significant reason why you would, inshallah, hopefully improve in your understanding of Arabic more and more. Zarf makan is again a noun which appears in a sentence to convey the meaning that a certain act, verb, took place at a certain place, at a certain space. I'll just give you an example from the Quran. In Surah Jinn, 72nd chapter, verse 9, the Almighty has mentioned the dialogue of jinns with each other. Some of them were telling others that, look here, there used to be a time when we had the facility, the luxury of going high in the skies, not very far from where the angels are. And we used to sit there and we used to listen to whatever was getting communicated between them. But things have changed now. There is some visible change in the manner things are happening in the sky and the heavens. And obviously that was because of the revelation of the Quran. It was taking place, and the Almighty made sure that no jinn, no other creature should be allowed to come anywhere close to the process of revelation. So the sentence that comes in this particular verse 9 is that the jinns telling others, Anna kunna, we used to naq'udu. This is a verb. We used to sit, minha, in them, that is there in the skies. But where in the skies they used to sit? Maqaida, in the places where sitting takes place, in the places which were meant for them to be seated. So that maqaida is a noun which has been used, and the next part is lissami. Why did we used to sit there? Simply for the purpose of listening, lissami. So the reason why I have given this as an example is this noun maqaida, which means a place to sit, and it has appeared in the form of nasab, accusative, because it is zarf-e makan. The act of sitting used to take place in maqaida. Now obviously a question would arise in your mind as to why is maqaida taking only one harakat and not two. Again, keep it as a question mark. There are answers that are going to appear in the next few sessions later, inshallah. So after having done 5 different possibilities of nasab in the last session, as yet we have added 2 more to the list, which is zarf-e makan, zarf-e zaman, and zarf-e makan. Now let's proceed to the other possibilities, and I'm going to mention again 2 more, because those 2, like in the case of zarf-e zaman and zarf-e makan, those 2 are also kind of pairs. They're not very different from each other. One is what you must have read quite often in the Quran, inna. And the other is kana. They both appear quite frequently, as I said, in the Quran, and they both have a number of different roles to play. But right now our interest is in learning as to how do they impact the appearance of a noun when it comes to its i'rab, different cases that the nouns take. Both cause the noun to take the case of nasab, the accusative case, but in different ways, kind of opposite ways. For example, in the Quran you quite often find, for example, Allahu waliyun, for example. Allah is the friend, protecting friend. This is a complete statement, complete sentence. This, Allah is Muqtada, and Wali is Khabar. And we've already discussed when we were discussing the Arab of Rafa that when it comes to Muqtada, the inquisitive, the starter, it is Rafa. When it comes to Khabar, which is the information, which is the enunciative, it too is in the form of Rafa. The only difference is that Mubtada is going to be always, almost always proper noun, and Khabar is going to be almost always common noun. Now comes a slight change that is introduced when you have inna coming before the sentence. When you have inna preceding a sentence with a mubtada and khabar where there is no verb, then the mubtada gets a nasab. That's what happens. So another reason why a noun would appear in the accusative nasab form in a sentence would be that it would be the mubtada, the inquisitive of inna. And that is what you find quite often in the Quran. Innal insana lafi khusr. Inna Allaha ala kulli shayin qadir. So wherever you have inna followed by a sentence which has a mubtada and a khabar, mubtada would always be in the form of nasab. The next example is we did inna. Now the next one is kana. Now, if we take almost the same example, Allahu khabirun. Now this is another sentence with a mubtada and the khabar, and both are in the form of rafa, and exactly the same way as before. Mubtada is proper noun and khabar is common noun. Now you bring in kana. Now what does kana do? Inna is normally emphasizing. Inna Allaha waliyun would mean Allah indeed is wali, is a protecting friend. Kana adds different dimensions. It's very more frequently the meaning is that it's taken in the past. That is, kana, ordinarily Allahu khabirun would be a sentence which can actually be in all three possible time periods: the past, the present, and the future. All tenses are possible. But when you have kana, more often than not, you have the statement, the sentence taken to the past tense. But that is for the meanings. When it comes to the appearance, kana causes the khabar to take the form of nasab. So Allahu khabirun would become kana Allahu khabira. Kana Allahu khabira. So this khabira nasab is because khabira is a khabar in a sentence which begins with kana. Sometimes you will find that you may not have a mention of Allah. It's just kana, and the noun is in the form of nasab, and again it would mean the same thing, that it is khabar and not mubtada, because we know that kana always causes the khabar to be in the form of nasab. So khabira here is with obviously khe as a dot. I've been reading it correctly, but I've been while I wrote it incomplete. We move on and take the example in the Quran. Vakana bihi rahima, for example. And he, to him, is merciful. Now, Although we do not have in this sentence a clear mubtada, which if it would have been there, it would have been in the form of rafa, we still have the khabar. And what it would mean is that he, that is the one we are talking about, God, in his case, let's say, in the case of the Prophet, may God's mercy be on him, which is what is there in one of the verses, he, regarding him, is merciful. So what I'm trying to say is that kana appears and it ensures that it is khabar is in the form of nasab, whether the mubtada is appearing or not. If it is not appearing in the sentence, it's not visible, it still is there implied, and we will put it there in the meanings when we will translate this the statement, wakana rahima, and he is merciful bihi, with regard to him. So we've now proceeded on to do 4 different possibilities of nasab. We have done zarf makan, zarf zaman, zarf makan, and now we've also done the mubtada of inna and the khabar of kana. So there are 2 more that I have promised, which if we would do, we will be done with the examples and possibilities of nouns taking the form of nasab as a category. As I said, it's not necessary that it's just these 11 possibilities there, but these are the most frequently appearing. If you've done them, you've done almost everything as far as nasab is concerned. The 10th possibility is what is called munada muzaf. Muzaf ilayh is what we have already done. Muzaf is the governing noun, muzaf ilayh is the governed noun. You can have any muzaf ilayh example. If I give you the example of Rabbuna. Rabbuna is our Lord. Na is us, this is a pronoun, and Rabb is Rabb, which has taken now 1 harakat instead of 2 because it is muzaf, and as we have seen that in case of muzaf, the governing noun, it's always 1 harakat and no alif lam preceding it. This is muzaf ilayh. Had it been some other noun, it would have actually taken the form of jar. It's still jar, but it doesn't appear here because it's a pronoun. I'll give you another example. The Almighty quite often mentions Rabbul Alameen. Now, the Lord of the all humanity, Alameen, those who are living in this world, the entire existence of humans. Now, Alameen has taken the form of jar because it is muzaf ilayh. But here, na is not responding to it that way, because now we'll talk more about it later, is one of those cases wherein no change takes whatsoever in the appearance of the noun, no matter whatever status, whatever position they are in. But what I'm trying to say is that munada muzaf, munada means the one that is given nida, that is called, whose attention is sought. You say, oh my friend. So you're really asking for the attention of your friend. You are calling him to give you attention. So when that takes place in Arabic, you have a ya added, which is oh, calling the attention. The same ya also takes the form of ya ayyuha. You have seen it quite often in the Quran. There's no difference whatsoever, except for the fact that when you have ya, the noun the noun that succeeds it, follows it, is the one which does not have an alif lam. But if you have a noun which begins with an alif lam, like allazina amanu, then instead of ya, it becomes ya ayyuha. That's what it is. There's nothing additional that ayyuha adds to the meanings. But what I'm saying is that if you have a mudaf whose attention is being sought, who is being called by somebody, then it would then become nasab, Ya Rabbana. So, Ya Rabbana is Rabb with a nasab because of Ya, which is actually the calling noun. Quite often we have prayers wherein we say Rabbana Atina fid dunya, even though there is no Ya preceding it. This is because Ya is implied. This is because Ya is implied. So sometimes Ya would be there appearing, and sometimes Ya would be there in reality with its meanings and effect fully effective, but would not be there. It would be understood by implication. A very interesting example of munada muzaf is what we quite often read in the Quran, Bani Israel. It was Ya Bani Israel. Now, this Bani is in actual fact, Ibnun is son. Its plural is Banuna. Banuna means many sons, more than one. And when this Banuna, which is in the form of Rafa, becomes Nasab and Jar, obviously it would be Banina. Now, we know that when it's going to be Muzaf, the sound of noon disappears. So it's either a tanween which drops one of its harakat, or it's a noon which disappears. So in this case, it's a noon which disappears and it becomes Bani Israel. Had there been no ya, it would have been, in most cases, Banu Israel. But now that we have it, a ya, which is the nida, which is calling, the muzaf, Bani, will now be in the form of nasab. So you know that Banina is both nasab and jar. So that is the 10th reason why a noun would be in the form of nasab. The last, but not the least, the 11th reason is what they call lae nafiye jins, which is a law that completely negates a certain possibility. So the best example of it is La ilaha illallah. Here ilah, which was ordinarily a noun, ilahun, has taken the form of nasab and has dropped one of its harakat. So what happens in the case of la nafiya jins is that it does two things. It has a double effect on the noun, that it is as a consequence of its appearance causing its meanings to be completely negated. One is that the noun takes a nasab form, and the other is that the harakat, one of the harakat is dropped. We have this quite well-known famous understanding or that we read, La hawla wala quwwata. La hawla wala quwwata illa billah. There is no strength, no control for anyone except Allah, except the God. So, hawla wala quwwata, both have taken nasab and the harakat is just one. So there we are. We have done in this and the earlier presentations all 11 mansubat, and we have seen that there are a number of reasons why in a sentence when a noun appears, it appears in the form of nasab. So we have done maf'ul bihi, we have done halat, we have done maf'ul lahu, we have done maf'ul mutlaq, we have done tamyiz. Today we did zarf zaman, zarf makan, the mubtada of inna, the khabar of kana, and then we have now done the monada of muzaf and lai nafi jins. All put together have enabled us to complete the discussion on the different Arabic forms that appear in an Arabic sentence. I hope that with the passage of time, through practice, reading the Quran over and over again, and trying to adjust and fit in the understanding that we have acquired as a consequence of these presentations, you will hopefully be able to understand why different nouns appear in the Quran in different forms of Arab. May the Almighty enable us to understand His book properly and to be able to get guided by it more and more.